right, it's official. Netflix is making Toronto its Canadian home.
This is the kind of news that gives people in this city and gives the city as a whole hope.
You might be seeing a lot more of the city on your screens in the near future after Netflix chooses Toronto for its Canadian corporate headquarters. What will this mean for the local TV and film industry? Plus,
I will be in a COVID ward in one of the hospitals.
the first team of volunteer healthcare workers touches down in Ontario. The doctors and nurses from Newfoundland preparing to help our province deal with its crushing surge of COVID-19 cases. Plus, a Canada Post facility in Mississauga forced to shut down, with dozens of employees now self-isolating following a large COVID-19 outbreak. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. Well, we know even when the pandemic is finally over, the road to economic recovery won't be easy. So today, some bright news. Netflix has officially chosen Toronto to be its Canadian home. The digital streaming giant announced it will open its first Canadian corporate office right here in the city. Farah Morelli joins me now live from City Hall. And Farah, that's where the mayor broke the news earlier, but there has been reaction from across the city tonight.
There has, Kelda. There's a lot of excitement about this announcement. We know that city officials and others here in Toronto had been courting the company for some time. Clearly, that paid off. And a lot of that excitement centers around the opportunities this new office could create for local creators, the industry, and even the city's economy. What the mayor said today is this is a little bit of good news after what's been a challenging few months.
Lights, camera, action. As the film industry bounces back from a challenging year, a dose of good news.
This is the kind of news that gives people in this city and gives the city as a whole hope.
That news, that Netflix is opening a new corporate office right here.
Bringing Netflix to Toronto was a community effort.
City officials worked with local production companies, studios and others to court Netflix.
We worked to put our best foot forward. I think it's really important to have that investment here because so many of Canada's creators are located here. 47% of Canadian television series that are Canadian content are shot in Ontario.
Chess isn't always competitive.
Toronto is already home to one of Netflix's production hubs. 2 summers ago, it set up shop on the city's Portlands. Parts of shows, like the cult favorite The Queen's Gambit, were filmed there.
When the hub opened, we knew that there would be a magnifying glass on Canadian content and domestic content.
Cinespace Studios forms the largest part of that hub and says the new office here is good news for local talent.
I think that this means Canadian artists have an opportunity to walk in the door, literally walk in the door of Netflix's Toronto office and pitch their amazing ideas and not have to rely on a big trip or even necessarily an agency relationship.
Netflix already has several Canadian partnerships.
So we run, I think, about 12 different professional development programs year-round for Indigenous filmmakers.
Including with Imaginative, the world's largest Indigenous film festival. The hope is partnerships like that will grow.
It's great news, it's very exciting. Lots of potential opportunities to come, I'm sure, from having them headquartered here.
A hope that was affirmed by Netflix's co-CEO and chief content officer today, who said, as we grow our business and presence all across Canada, we're excited that Toronto will be our first local office. We're looking forward to opening our doors and building on the great work we've started with our creative partners to bring more Canadian artists and stories to the world.
And Farah, do we know where that office is going to be and when it will open?
Well, Kelda, a spokesperson or a rep from Netflix said today that they haven't quite figured out where the exact location is going to be, but the hope, they said, is to set up sort of an interim office sometime this summer so they could get going. In that office, about 10 to 15 employees based here in Toronto, one of which would be the highly coveted job of content executive. So that would be somebody who would work with creators, content creators on pitches for new films and new series.
Exciting. All right, thanks, Farah. That's our Farah Morelli reporting live for us tonight. Well, they're coming from across the country to help in our province's battle against COVID-19. A team of doctors and nurses from Newfoundland touched down at Pearson Airport today, the first group of volunteers to arrive. They'll be working on the front lines at Ontario hospitals, overwhelmed by the influx of critically ill patients. Our Chris Glover has more.
Intensive care reinforcements step off a military plane at Pearson Airport to step into Ontario's COVID battle.
I feel energized and excited and ready to help out my colleagues.
Dr. Allison Fury will assist UHN hospitals in downtown Toronto. A decade ago, she and her husband, Newfoundland's Premier Dr. Andrew Fury, founded an international medical relief organization, Team Broken Earth.
And it's just the way that Newfoundlanders are. They are giving to their communities, both locally and in their own country and abroad.
It's Ontario in desperate need of their help right now, with 875 COVID patients in ICU. Up to 3 military teams with potentially a dozen medical personnel each are also coming to help Ontario hospitals, just as they assisted at nursing homes during the first wave of COVID last year.
Sending men and women in uniform to help in Ontario is a serious step. We're doing this because the situation requires it.
The first COVID patient is now being treated at Sunnybrook's Field Hospital, as today an advanced military team arrived there as well to plan how the armed forces can help that struggling facility.
Staffing has been an issue, and it will continue to be an issue across the province, as you know. So we're grateful for any support we can get.
Still, Ontario's health minister says it's not enough support. Manitoba has put out a call for retired ICU staff to come help in Ontario. Plus, the province is approaching the U.S. and the Philippines for even more reinforcements.
To see if there are any teams that are able to come from other countries to come and help us.
Newfoundland is already prepping a second team to come relieve this first crew of 9 ICU workers. And for a province that in 2001 took care of stranded air travelers after the 9/11 attacks and captured such international acclaim, even a Broadway musical was created about it. The world is now witnessing a second act.
Someone mentioned to me earlier that there should be a new version of Come From Away, and it should be the Newfoundland 9.
Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
New details today on the paid sick leave plan that Premier Doug Ford first hinted at last week. Ontario is planning to double the federal benefit currently available, but opposition members and some doctors are already panning the plan. Lorena Redekop reports.
Today, the province announced its paid sick day plan is to double the current federal one.
Let's be clear, the federal government, with the flip of a switch, can ensure that workers in Ontario are paid $1,000 per week, and our government will pay 100% of the doubling.
Like with the federal program, the pay would be available for up to 4 weeks, retroactive for 2 months.
Why would this government throw money at a failed federal program instead of stepping up and providing paid sick days to workers in this province and saving their lives?
Criticisms of the federal program include that people have to wait to get their money, and workers must be off sick for at least 50% of their normal work week to qualify. It doesn't appear the federal government is willing to allow Ontario to connect to its program.
One of the most efficient ways of doing that is obviously to work through employers, as we have through federally regulated workplaces. And I know the Deputy Prime Minister is working directly with the province of Ontario to ensure that the right supports get there for people as quickly as possible.
When governments agree on the objective,
one economics professor feels the federal government should improve its program.
Labor law falls under the jurisdiction of provinces. Absolutely true. We're not in normal times. This is an emergency with a very clear objective. The provinces are not moving on this. And I think by making that first move, the federal government stepped into the ring.
But many have been waiting on the province, especially after this.
And we will have the best program anywhere in North America, bar none.
Frankly, am very upset about this.
This doctor is among those who's been advocating for more.
And a lot of people that are going to die unless we act immediately. This is my biggest fear, is that we are sacrificing the lives of hardworking Ontarians, workers in Ontario, for the sake of some sort of political ideology, or we're playing politics.
He says it needs to be available for all workers, and the easiest way to avoid a stoppage of pay is through employers. Despite the criticisms, the Premier's office says with pay of $1,000 a week, this would be the best sick pay program in North America. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
Colette Kennedy joins us now with a first look at the forecast. And Colette, looks like some April showers will be the way we end the month.
Yeah, we're just into this pattern where a lot of instability here. So some showers, a few embedded thunderstorms rolling through tonight. And, you know, not only that, but as we head into the day tomorrow, we have another even greater chance of seeing some more activity. Now, a few outliers possible in the early morning. Then we get a break. Don't be lulled, though, because this is right around the lunch hour. Another line of not just rain, but yes, with some of these thunderstorms locally, some heavier downpours are certainly possible. Then into the afternoon, some sunny breaks may develop, and that energy just adds to this unsettled pattern. And into the evening, then we'll see more showers coming back. So it's an off and on kind of thing. Times there could be some heavier action here with some of that rainfall. Just be prepared for it, as it's not constant, so sometimes it can kind of take you off guard. 8 degrees overnight, the temperature, and then for tomorrow, we are looking at 15 degrees, but, you know, very close by, we're going to see some of those temperatures into the mid-20s, just like they were today. Just not quite happening for us, Kelda.
Thanks, Colette. If you're 45 or older and live in a designated hotspot, you can now book an appointment to get your COVID-19 vaccine at any of the city's mass vaccination centers.
It's great news for me. I definitely actually would go home and book it.
People looking to book a slot will hope you're patient. The earliest appointments that were available today were for mid-May. Meanwhile, younger residents in hotspot neighborhoods still have to rely on mobile and pop-up clinics for now. And essential businesses in Brampton are now allowed to start vaccinating employees, something Maple Lodge Farms started today.
It's fantastic, to be honest. I mean, imagine having not to line up, schedule your own workplace.
I feel more safe and okay, feel better.
Maple Leaf Foods in Mississauga and Brampton will begin vaccinating workers tomorrow. Amazon will follow suit next week. A man is facing murder charges in the stabbing deaths of his parents in Hamilton.
We believe the father was stabbed first. Mother fled the apartment and was caught up with by her son, and the second incident happened in the hallway outside the elevators.
Police were called to the apartment building around noon on Monday. Investigators say the son had a self-inflicted injury and was taken to hospital under police watch. He's expected to recover and be charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder. The victims were 61 and 67 years old. An 82-year-old woman in a wheelchair was killed after she was hit by a dump truck in Toronto's East End this afternoon. It happened in the area of Main Street and Danforth Avenue. Police were called to the scene at about 3:15. Toronto paramedics said the woman was pronounced dead at the scene. Roads in the area were closed for several hours for the police investigation. A freak collision has left a man dead after his car was struck by an overhead sign on the eastbound QEW in Hamilton early this morning.
A piece of construction equipment was traveling on the QEW, hauling a piece of equipment, and as it drove underneath this overpass, the arm or the boom extended and struck the top of that sign, causing the sign to collapse.
The sign then fell onto the highway, crushing the car. The 46-year-old Niagara Falls man driving the vehicle was pronounced dead at the scene. Sergeant Schmidt said it's something he's never seen before. The incident is now being investigated. Police are asking anyone who saw what happened to contact them. Still ahead, a COVID-19 outbreak at a Canada Post facility in Mississauga shuts down an entire shift, sending employees home to self-isolate for 10 days. We'll have details on that. Plus,
since we don't have any paid sick days, this person still decided to come into work.
hear more from the employee of a Toronto business ordered shut because of a COVID-19 outbreak. That's coming up after the break. Canada Post has been ordered to shut down an afternoon shift at its Gateway West facility in Mississauga because of a COVID-19 outbreak. Peel Public Health issued the order today. It means about 80 employees and contractors will have to self-isolate for 10 days. The shift is in what Canada Post calls its Toronto Exchange office, where 12 employees have tested positive for the virus in the last 7 days. The company says paid leave provisions are in place to support employees. Because of the shutdown, anyone expecting international mail should track their items online and expect delays. Well, as we told you last night, in Toronto, 11 businesses have been either partially or fully closed by public health due to COVID-19 outbreaks. And tonight, we're hearing from an employee about that experience. Our Ellie Chiasson has more.
Among the workplaces that have been forced to completely shut down for at least 10 days is a McDonald's, a meatpacking plant, a fire protection company, and a car dealership. This means hundreds of employees out of work. Some are sick, others in isolation, hoping they don't develop symptoms themselves.
How are you going to have an income? Like, how are you going to keep like paying your bills and everything.
I spoke with an employee of one of the companies that have shut down. They're worried they would get in trouble with their boss for speaking out, so we agreed to grant anonymity to hear their story.
The situation kind of started because someone's family member was feeling not well, and since we don't have any paid sick days, this person still decided to come into work.
That was in early April.
Did they eventually test positive then?
Yes, they did. Pretty shortly after, I would say within like the next 2 weeks after, it's kind of when things started getting out of hand and more people were testing positive.
They managed to avoid catching it.
I do live with other people, so that would be one of like my biggest worries, is giving it to somebody else, and then they would spread it to their work environment, and then it's kind of just like a ripple effect.
It's that ripple effect that public health in both Peel Region and Toronto is trying to stop. The company this employee works for is compensating them during the closure, but says if they had paid sick days, their company's patient zero could have afforded to isolate and monitor for symptoms before going to work.
More people would be able to self-isolate and stay home, and it would stop the spread of spreading it to other people.
More closures continue to happen, but this first round targeted relatively small companies compared to the much larger corporations like Amazon and Canada Post currently reporting outbreaks to Toronto Public Health. New closures are posted every Thursday. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
Drinking will not be allowed in public parks this summer after a city committee killed the pilot proposal. Councillor Josh Matlow put forward the pitch to allow drinking in parks with some restrictions, but the Economic and Community Development Committee voted unanimously to defer the motion with no timeline for it to come back, which effectively kills the motion. Parks and licensing staff expressed concerns about enforcement and available resources for the pilot project, which was proposed to run from May until October.
The Raptors down to 5. Kyle deep three.
The Raptors facing the Brooklyn Nets, hoping for another win after last night's victory against the Cavaliers. Kyle Lowry lead the pack for Toronto with 24 points and 6 three-pointers, but the Nets win this one 116-103, clinching a playoff spot and snapping the Raps' 5-game home winning streak. The Jays faring much better in their game against the Washington Nationals. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. hit 3 home runs, including a grand slam to lead the team to a 9-5 win. They'll wrap up their 2-game series against the Nationals tomorrow night. Partly cloudy tonight with some intermittent showers, and there is the risk of a thunderstorm developing overnight. Currently, it's 9 degrees in downtown Toronto. Let's go back to Colette now with a look at your extended forecast. And Colette, one of those weeks where it's good to have an umbrella handy if you're going to be outside.
Yeah, Kelda, we were thinking of assembling the patio furniture, and it was like, oh, here's a good excuse to just put it off because we're into this pattern where we're not really going to be sitting out there. Whole different story today. It was 26 degrees in southwestern Ontario and Windsor with full sunshine. Definitely want patio furniture there. Different story for the GTA. We've got that thunderstorm risk, not just tonight, but especially kind of midday tomorrow. Changes to Thursday's forecast. Now, we do have a system that's still going to be kind of passing by us, but the heaviest rain now looking like it's going to stay a little further south, so we get into cloud cover and some isolated showers as opposed to a steady rain on Thursday. Finally, Friday. Now, there's even a chance of showers Friday, but as we get a little further into the day, we'll be breaking out of the pattern, at least for a portion of the weekend, which is really important. I want to show you the daytime highs. I mean, 30 degrees in Chicago today, but I mentioned Windsor at 26, London 22, Sarnia 24. Oh, Toronto, sorry. Yeah, the influence was off the lake with the winds, and they kept the temperatures down. That warm front just not quite getting far enough east to sort of help us out with our temperatures. So some of the active weather, light showers are kind of early, still possible after what we see tonight. But there it is midday tomorrow where there's that chance of getting late morning into the early afternoon, some heavier downpours. A little sunshine is actually possible, not guaranteed, but possible in the afternoon, and that energy just kind of leads to more activity into the evening. So off and on wet conditions. This is what I'm talking about Thursday, though. See how the main rain is wanting to stay south of the lower Great Lakes? Let's hope it stays there, as we'll get some rain that we need in the next little while. We don't necessarily need that on Thursday. Keeping a lot of cloud cover, though, and it's still going to be pretty damp. And then overnight tonight, look at these temperatures. These overnight lows warmer than the daytime highs around the Golden Horseshoe in most cases, and a humidex to talk about of nearly 30 tomorrow, but still some active weather. Even the risk of some severe thunderstorm, that potential's there for southwestern Ontario. Tonight's temperatures around the GTA, quite a change depending when you're going to break out of the cloud cover and out of some of the rainfall. And then there you go tomorrow afternoon. Upper teens for St. Catharines, Hamilton quite possibly as well. Just depends how much sunshine into those key afternoon hours. For Toronto, it's 15, Thursday 12, Friday 10, but check out the weekend. I've improved the forecast a little bit for Sunday, and Saturday looks great, Kelda.
Thanks, Colette.
The weather is brought to you by Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. It's hard to stop a train.
Finally tonight, members of the Toronto FC soccer team have been in Florida preparing for a match with a team from Mexico. But yesterday, an unexpected arrival prompted plenty of excitement.
It's good to be in Florida, you know? You can see this. I never see this in Toronto.
Yep, that's an alligator crashing the practice sesh, coming onto the field and showing off some moves. The team wasn't quite sure what to make of the reptile, but they did grab the chance to take a few selfies, of course, at a safe distance. And that's our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night.